Oh, what's up, world travelers? And look what time it is. Well, it doesn't matter what time it is because we are in your ear holes whenever and wherever you are. This is Judgmentalist coming at you with another episode of Digital Nomading here. This week, we're going to see if we can't chip away at some more of the past couple weeks of Big Sexy in My Lives. We've got some questions from you, both on social media and via email. And here we are. Big Sexy, the digital nomad.
What's happening? What's happening? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Whenever this is hitting your ear holes, thank you so much for being here. What's up, world travelers? I hope y'all having a good day. We are currently here, still in Malaga. It is a rainy day. It's been raining for the past couple of days. It's going to rain for a couple of more days, and then the sun is supposed to start shining again. So it's interesting to experience this side of Spain, seeing rain and also finding out that things like when it rains, things close. They're like, "Oh, it's raining. We're not going to open today." It's like, okay. I guess I don't need to go to that supermarket."
It's interesting because I forget how laid back not the United States is sometimes.
Very much so.
And by not the United States, I mean everywhere but here. Because I'm responsible for this as well. Like there are certain businesses in town, small town Elkton, that I get a little upset with and definitely cool off my patronizing of when randomly you show up and there's a sign in the door that says, "Whoops, not today." And it's just, I'm a big believer in consistency. And when you say you're going to be open and stuff like that. And I realize that it's a very American
That's an American
thing.
mindset. That's a very American mindset.
And, it's,
yeah, we're absolutely having to make the adjustment. Also, things don't open on Sundays, which is, we experienced the other day. Like, I had a plan today to go to the pet store. There's one down the street from where we're staying. And, I'm thinking it's the pet store, right? Whatever. And, we worked through the day. Our host had to come over. We're having issues with the internet. We still have internet, obviously, because we're recording this so that we're able to record this. But right now it's just the 2.4G, and they also have 5G available, but there's a power issue. It was the whole thing. So then, and we're also, we're just relaxed. It's a very relaxed day. Wife didn't work till later, and I figured, well, I'll wait till my wife starts work, and then I'll take that as an opportunity to get out of the apartment and go run to the store and run these errands. So wife's first session was at 3:00, and I'm like, cool, perfect. I put my clothes on, got everything together, and headed out and walk into the pet store. And I'm happy I went to the pet store first. So I'll go there because it was just past the big supermarket that we're going to. That I was going to stop back and get some groceries and come back on the way from there. So I go to the pet store and it's closed. And I look at the hours of the pet store. They're open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
okay.
That's it. They're only open for 5 hours, Monday through Saturday.
Interesting.
Well, I was like, oh, wait, what? Why you already? And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I got to make an adjustment. I got to remember things aren't. Plus, I'm, a bit. It's a bigger adjustment for me because I'm coming from Vegas.
24/7 land.
Right. Coming from a city that quote unquote never sleeps, even though things still out there still close, but they close at 10:30. Like the earliest things closed out there might be 10:00. Maybe 9:00 for like your regular stores or whatever. But even Walmart closed at midnight or 2 a.m, and there are no like big super Walmart. There's no Walmarts out here, no Targets. You know what I mean? So you got to go to the specialized store to get what you need. And I was again shocked that it closed at 3. Oh, okay. I guess I'm making that trip tomorrow then. All right, fair enough. Fine. I'll make the trip tomorrow. So went back on, came back to the main grocery store and went, did some grocery shopping and got some stuff or whatever. Um, and then, and then came back, wife's working or whatever. And it's been a lazy day. Like I said, it's been rainy and overcast. So that definitely has changed the vibe of just being here. I've started taking naps, which I don't nap. I'm not a napper. I don't like naps. I'm not. Naps aren't usually in my DNA. But I got back and I'm like, you know what I could do? I could lay down right now. So actually, I got undressed, threw on my headphones.
I think it's a
Uh,
siesta where you are.
yeah, definitely took a siesta. Hopped in, put ICS in the headphones, popped open my Prince book, laid down. I figured, I'll just lay here and read because I don't normally nap. And then next thing I knew, I was waking up. Apparently was snoring heavily enough to wake myself up, but luckily not loud enough to disturb the wife and her work. But yeah, that was definitely a thing. Siesta are real. That's the real thing, and I guess when in Spain, uh, you got siesta with the best of them. Because I mean, businesses take siestas, which is
Yeah.
crazy. You know what I mean? They'll close at 1 or 2 o'clock and then reopen at 6. So it's a thing here. Got to make that universal adjustment, which is
Well,
which is which is I'm happy to say that we're able to make. We're in a position to make. So that's nice.
well, that's good. I mean, I guess it's destiny to eventually have that happen, to adjust to where you are and everything like that.
Yeah, you spend long enough time in some place, then you will tend to acclimate to that place, um, which is fine. Okay, so naps are a thing in the middle of the day, and I normally get tired in the middle of the day anyway. Like that's when my energy tends to be the lowest. In between 2 and 6 p.m., my energy level just kind of dips and then picks back up, and then I'm up for a long night. I'm a long nighter, um, but it's dipping low enough to render me unconscious. So that's a thing. But
Hey,
I think a lot of it
give it
also
up.
the fact that we're walking a lot. You know, uh, we're walking a lot. And even like around the city center, and we go to the city center, which was an amazing trip. I definitely have to get into that. Um, Shout out to Mara and Drew. I'll tell you about them in a moment. Um, we walked all around, and then you walk to the train station. Then you're riding on the train, and then you get off there, and then we finally took Uber back to the place. But just going to the store, making the little trips around, or whatever. Um, all of that is walking. It's just walking. Or get out of the car, walking, walking, walk. That's all I do. But I don't mind it.
Well, I mean, it's probably good for you. It's you guys aren't renting a car, so you've saved money there. You're not putting
Right,
gas in it. You're not dealing with any of that kind of stuff.
right.
Um,
Although there was a place that had rental cars that I saw, and the cost was really inexpensive. But there's no way we're
but
renting a
there's still
car.
so much that comes with it. It's like that
Um,
story, the story that I
yeah,
told of my expensive long ass Uber ride that year that I had a player that was a Notre Dame player. And for his pro day, I decided I was going to fly into Chicago, take the train, rent no car all weekend. I was there for like 4 days. I did some Chicago stuff
right,
and then just hopped on an Uber there and back. Like, I wouldn't have, if I renting a car wouldn't have made sense for that. And I wouldn't have wanted to deal with the hassle of parking that car in the middle of a city. So, obviously I incurred a extraneous expense in that Uber. But other than that, if I
right.
go back to Chicago, I mean, look, it's funny because I was talking to RJ when he was here a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I can't even tell you how many times I've been to Vegas over the years. I've been going there since I was 21, and sometime, more recently,
A lot.
anywhere between 8 and 10 times a year. I have been behind the wheel of a vehicle 0 times.
Wow, wow.
Zero times. And a lot of that early on was not in the Uber days. You would just take a cab and you'd walk up and down the strip where you want to go. More recently, now that's not to say that I haven't been in a car, because
Well, yeah, I
obviously
mean,
cabs, limos, Ubers. More recently, Wayne had rented a car when he was out there. So we would go when we went places with them. They'd drive us. You've driven me places,
right,
pretty much on that same trip. So I've done that, but I haven't driven. And
right,
even a friend of mine who comes out with me once or twice a year, and we've done some trips out there, more of the recreational type of Vegas trips. We've contemplated that idea in Vegas of, oh, we should rent one of these exotic cars for 4 hours or for a day. You're throwing money away, but at the end of the day, we kind of look at it and be like, what? We're not going to just drive places for 4 hours. That's
right,
stupid. We're not the kind of people that give two shits about driving up and down the strip and letting people that we don't know see us in a vehicle that we don't own. Like
right,
there's no, and then you've got to park it if you're not driving it, and we're going to be drunk half the time. No, that
right.
idea, we will discuss that idea for minutes and then it will get settled.
Give
So
me, I'll give a second. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like even when I lived there, like why would I? I'm not gonna. Yeah, anybody who sees me driving this car, like I'm not flashy. I'm not showing off. It's gonna be.
yeah,
Oh, look at that dude in a Wolverine T-shirt driving a Maserati down the strip. Wait, what? Oh, the woman next to him has rainbow hair. I guess that's. Wait, what? Yeah, it's too much of a. And then by the time they try to figure it out, we're gone. And
yeah.
I'm not stopping off, and then I have interesting conversations, which is what I prefer to do anyway. I'm not, nobody's gonna, stop at the street light, ask me about the car, which I'm not saying, oh yeah, we rented this. Like that's not a thing that we're doing. So yeah, I've never. I mean, I get it for those who like that flash, and for some reason
Yes.
that
Some people
style
want
of
that.
car is an aphrodisiac to them, and they feel that they got to pump up their status, and but I don't need the aphrodisiac of a flashy car. I'm good just hanging out.
And a lot of that's a personality thing. Like I was having a conversation with Peter Wood, who is a magician who's been on Fool Us twice. So if you're finding us through those places where you probably are a regular Fool Us viewer, you've seen him. Um, I guess I'll take this opportunity to plug the fact that he will be doing Elkton Magic on June 13th, and that's a
Yes,
fundraiser
right
show.
away.
So all the money that doesn't go to him, which is actually covered by sponsors, goes to the organization. So that's cool. But Peter and I were talking the other day, and it's like we only aspire to be magician famous, which means nobody in the general public knows who the fuck we are for the most part. We can walk into a room of magicians and be recognized by other magicians, but it kind of stops there. Like when I was in Vegas the last time, the trip that we still haven't come anywhere near uh, talking
Completing,
about.
which
We
we'll
talked
do.
about
We'll get more into
get a
that
little
today
of
as
that,
well.
but we got some listener mail today and some other questions from social media. So we're gonna do more of that than talk about me. But I walked into Lost Spirits Distillery, which is over in Area 15. Really cool concept. Um,
Right.
no, and there's all sorts of variety acts on
See, you
4 or 5
have
different
done things
stages.
there that I have not done. I have not done Lost Distillery. I've seen it. I've been next to it. I've been to Area 15 quite a bit, but we never made it into Lost Distillery. Which I mean, it's also like we would just go for the experience because we're not drinkers.
And let me say, you don't need to be a drinker to go,
Right.
because
Right.
my trip was, what did I say? It was a Sunday through the next Sunday. We went as part of the McBride Mystery School Week to Lost Spirits on Friday. And let me tell you, the week had caught up to me by Friday. So I was not particularly interested in having a hard night as
Right.
far as the partying and the drinking is concerned. And when I walked in there, and we'll get to what Thursday night was. Thursday really is what set the stage for me not wanting to hit Friday hard or hit Friday at all. That was the hockey game. But
Which
I
flies
walked in
through.
there. They handed me, like everybody else, the first snifter full of rum that, woo, you could just take that whiff. And I carried that thing around for at least 45 minutes until ran into somebody else in my group that was like, "Oh, that first one was really great." And I'm like, "Put your glass up." And I poured the entire thing into his glass. I found a place to ditch my glass that, they have little places for you to put your stuff there.
Right.
But there are 4 or 5 stages with variety acts, acrobatics, singers, magicians, all sorts of stuff. Really great. Definitely worth it. Um, it just,
It is definitely on the list of things to do once we make it back through Vegas. I definitely want to check
but
that
to
place
dip
out.
into one of the rooms where like they're between acts, because they'll do like 20 minutes and then there's like a little like 10-minute break for you to mill about and go to the other rooms,
Right.
and then they start back up. And I don't know if that might not be exactly the format, but something along those
Yeah,
lines.
it feels very. I hear it looks very Magic Castle-y in that aspect.
Oh, did you move around from room to room?
Yeah.
Well, one of us on this podcast has been to the Magic Castle and the other's a magician, so
Right.
you'd know better than me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It looks and sounds very much like there's an act, and then the act ends, and you can kind of meld to another act. There may be some overlap, but they try to give you enough to see as much as you possibly can.
It is my understanding that it is similar to that,
But
yes.
here's the deal: one of us has been to Lost Distillery, and the other of us lived in Vegas.
It's
So
true. It's true.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so it's definitely worth, but Magician Famous is me walking into one of these rooms with one of these stages and having it be kind of at that, the room is refilling for the next act, and having the host of that room who's on stage see me. And I haven't seen him in months, probably since it's probably been close to a year now since I've seen him in person, because it would have been Magic Live last year. And to have him just call me out across the room, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, Magician Famous."
right,
But I could walk all up and down that strip and not be recognized by a single soul,
right.
unless I run into my boy Smoothini or something like that. But for the most part, that's all the more I want. I don't even need that. Like,
Yeah,
I don't need to be famous at all.
I don't mind. I'm down with a decent bit of fame. I wouldn't mind being,
I mean,
I wouldn't mind being the kind of famous where I'm picked up in a fancy car and driving down, and then when I get out of the back seat of a fancy car in my Wolverine T-shirt and blue jeans,
there you go.
people are screaming, "Oh, there's Big Sexy!" Da da da. There's I don't know about a whole gang of paparazzi, but I wouldn't mind a gaggle of cell phones out taking my pictures and posting me up on the gram or what have you, or hanging out at the Webby Awards one day if we're there, if this podcast blows up and we're getting recognized. Not the web, maybe, I guess the Webby Awards also do recognize podcasts as well. I know they're more web based things of that well, but still, that'd be kind of cool. That'd be pretty neat. I'd like something like that because you become magician famous and I become cruise ship famous. So
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
I
look, all I want is to be able to be booked places
yeah.
when I'm interested in being booked places, and
There you go.
you know, and having a memory like a steel trap. So, places that don't book me now and want to in the future, well, we'll drop you to the bottom of the list because you've dropped me to the bottom of a list before. And
There you go.
when booking a tour for a friend and getting cut out of a gig, where in a week long run you're opening on every single one of the shows except for one, the next time a different friend says, "Hey, book me, let's book a run together." Well, that lesson gets learned by that venue not even getting called to book the
Right.
new guy. So,
There you go.
um,
I think that sounds like experience versus
let's just put it this way,
imagination.
without calling anybody specific out. You won't see me performing in Washington, D.C., not with the Mind Noodler, and you won't see myself or RJ performing in Washington, D.C. in September. So,
There you go.
anybody who wants to be on the witch hunt to dig through and figure all that out themselves can compare Matt's schedule at the end of July to my schedule at the end of July and draw your own conclusions.
Yes.
Uh,
If you're the type to draw conclusions based on two podcasters talking about shows and whatnot.
yes, exactly.
Yeah. But that's awesome. Well, so let's get into it. Let's get into the rest of your Vegas excursion. I believe we hadn't hit the hockey game just yet.
Yeah, the hockey game was Thursday. I can't remember what
Was
the hell I did on Wednesday
Yeah,
because we
because
talked about Tuesday,
we left on Tuesday, if I
right? And
recall correctly.
that was Copperfield reaching out and saying, "Hey, when can we meet up and get those cards?" Um,
Did you get a chance to hang out with Copperfield when you
um,
or was it like was it through like 1 degree, like 2 degrees of separation?
it was a little more. I wouldn't describe it as hanging out. Comped tickets to the show, right up in the front row, meet and greet afterwards. Yes. Was
Okay.
it, a hangout session? No.
Well, I
Photos and stuff
mean,
like that? Yeah. But
yeah,
I mean, you're
it,
talking
wa-
about a guy that does 15 shows a week every single week. So it's not
right.
like he's got a whole lot of palling around time.
No, right.
Um,
I wasn't saying like you guys went and got tea together, at Money Gabi, Moni Gabi. What's the name of that coffee place, that tea place, babe?
Mona Miyabi,
Mona Mia Gabi. Yeah, that's it.
you
Uh,
talking about, what is that? The one that's at Paris?
it's on no, not on Paris. There's the little one on Spring Mountain. Uh, Mona Mia Gabi. That's a little tea place that the wife likes, but I think she has her headphones in. She probably didn't hear the question, which is okay. Um, Right. I'm not saying that you guys are palling around like that. I'm the
Right.
more so the fact that you did a meet and greet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
It was cool.
it was direct. The cards went from your hands to his hands.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
Um, Yeah, and it was cool. It was nice to be able to get Brogan's art into the hands of a legend, and obviously to have a hand in making that happen was kind of cool.
Right. Was Brogan
Um,
there?
no, 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 no.
Oh.
But Brogan did all the art, so
Well, of course you did. Yeah, yeah. Of course they did. Yeah, yeah. I
I
didn't know that Brogan was able to be there as well.
now
As
Brogan
many
left.
legends as Brogan got a chance to hang out with.
Yeah, I want to say 3 weeks before maybe
Yeah.
Brogan left.
I gotta remember this is your second. This isn't the same trip that I was there for.
Correct. Yeah, this is the second.
This happened while I was on the boat. See, I'm getting my days
Yes,
crossed and confused.
this is while you're on a boat. So
Yeah,
I don't remember much that happened significantly on Wednesday, but now we're coming up on this being almost a month ago. In fact, today that we're at the time that we're recording this, we are 1 month from your disembarkment on that boat, which would have been almost
we're exactly 1 month from the day we hopped on the Virgin Voyages transatlantic cruise on the Valiant Lady to Barcelona. That's
so.
insane. Today, wow, wow. We have not been in the United States for one full month. Look at us go.
That's right. Yeah, so I don't remember what we did Wednesday. I don't know that there was a whole lot of anything. Oh, Matt had a show Wednesday night. Matt was part of the My Noodler was part of a variety show at Square Bar, and he did his Straightest Jacket Escape. RJ was there. We hung out for a little bit, and that was pretty much the run of it. But Thursday, with the Stanley Cup playoffs having begun, that at the time was the first round of the playoffs. I, as a person on the waiting list or the whatever it's called for Golden Knights season tickets, ended up securing a hospitality suite uh, for Game Five. I guess, yeah, that was Game Five,
Right.
and that was the Winnipeg series. So that was kind of a good time because when contemplating doing so, I reached out to Matt, I reached out to RJ, and I was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. The scheduling falls on an evening that I know that I'm open. Um, are you guys available?" Because that was right around just before episode 1000. I didn't
Right.
know when Matt and Jacob were going to fly out. Fortunately, that was Friday morning. And I was like, "Hey, if it gets to the point where I can't fill this suite because I had like 20 tickets, I can call on you guys as kind of a backup to fill some spots. Now that ended up not being an issue, but yeah, Matt was there, RJ was there, Jimmy was
You had
there,
a gaggle of folks. Harrison Greenbaum was
Harrison was there,
there.
Chris Kenner, who is Copperfield's producer and right hand man. We had a couple scoops. Actually, Sarah Boyle
Sarah
and Steve
Boyle.
Bat Scoop that have been. Sarah's been on our podcast, not Steve, but they met us at
Right.
the thing that we did at the New York back
Right.
in
The,
November.
the meet and greet when we were just getting started. Absolutely.
Yeah, so unofficially, it was a big sexy digital nomad gathering without Big Sexy because he was on a boat,
I was on a boat.
uh, which
Otherwise, I'd have been there, but I was on a
which
boat.
conforming to the digital nomad theme actually kind of worked.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that was a really great. Jim Jobin, Dr. Jim Jobin from Pod Therapy was there.
Right.
So it was kind of like a big
I would say his full title that Hey Buddy Nice podcast has given him, but it's a lot.
yeah
Although I love the Jimothy part of it.
yeah
Lord King, Dr. Jimothy, Mysicle, Jobin,
Jeb Tholomew,
Jib
maybe there's
Tholomew.
I don't know, who knows.
Well, you know why they call him Jimothy.
No.
Well, I love this is my favorite thing, right? One of my favorite things. If Tim is short for Timothy,
Mm-hmm.
then Jim is short for Jimothy. And if bike is short for bicycle, then Mike is short for Mysicle.
I gotcha.
So that's why he is Jimothy Mysicle, which is hilarious to me. I laughed so hard when I heard that on the episode. That's funny.
He's
That's funny.
he's a good time, and everybody there was a good time. There
Oh,
were
I'm
no
sure.
bumps on logs there. Everybody
Now,
had a good
were
time.
significant others there as well? Or was it just the
Let's see,
fellas?
Sarah Lowe was there. Harrison's fiance was there. Uh, Jimmy brought his son.
Okay, thing
Obviously
one.
Sarah Boyle and Bat Steve.
Right, right.
Other than that, no, that's the run of it.
Okay, cool.
Um, and I mean, honestly, significant others. Matt would have been the significant other because in Las Vegas, Sarah is more famous than him.
You got
Uh,
that right.
so,
Yeah.
the best part. Okay, so one of my favorite parts to this, which kind of comes full circle to why I was not necessarily hitting it hard on Friday night, was so the suites. It was one flat package price, and it included the tickets. It included a spread of food that they continued to refill. And there was a whole variety of different stuff, including desserts and appetizers and main course type of stuff, like a little buffet sort of thing. Beer, wine, and other non-alcoholic beverages were included. And then they had a menu in there, which I actually never saw, but there was a menu in there for you to buy, to add on stuff or liquor or whatever. And I think it was right around the time that the game's about to start, because you get there early, you're milling about, everybody's kind of chatting and everything, and you're working the room, and at some point in time it becomes less of a hockey game and more of a social event.
Right.
Knights did win. They clinched the series for round one.
That's a beautiful thing.
And it was awesome because they scored a goal within the first minute. They scored a goal within the first minute of the second period. And it was really the Jets never really scored and put up any sort of a fight until they went empty net with about 9 minutes to go in the game. At that point in time, it was like 5-1 or 5-0. I think it was
Wow.
5-0 at that point in time. So Matt comes up to me super serious, and he's like, Jacob and I have ordered a bottle of Jameson. Okay. And we're going to need your help with it. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, seriously, we ordered an entire bottle of Jameson and we're going to need your help with it. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, where's the problem? Why so serious? Like, I wasn't trying to get all like Joker in The Dark Knight Rises or anything with him, but I was just like, yeah, bro, let's go. My assumption is, because I never saw that menu, my assumption, given the sweet situation, is that bottle of Jameson probably cost $200 or $300.
Right.
So
Like they do.
when you can go when you can spend $200 or more on something that at the liquor store probably only cost you 30, you
Right.
don't want to leave a drop in there, and I
Not a
get that.
single drop. Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
you
probably approaching the second intermission, so the end of the second period, and that bottle is done. And I just go up to Matt and I just hand it to him. I'm like, "You for some reason thought this wasn't going to happen."
mischief
So
managed.
yeah, so we no, it was a good time, and then a handful of people. Well, Mitzi was there. I can't leave anybody out. I will. I probably already have, but
Yeah.
Mitzi was also there. Um, Shout out to my MGM casino host. I pulled a little bit of a baller move and invited him because why not schmooze the guy who's supposed to schmooze you when you're in
Yes,
town?
very much so.
Um,
Show a little reciprocal love right there.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was a good time. Then we went back to the New York, New York. A handful of people did, Jacob included, even though Jacob was getting up presumably early for a flight to Pittsburgh with Matt. And we hung
Well,
out in the room.
Jacob is a party animal. Make no mistake. Of the
Indeed,
three of them, Jacob is the partier. But
yes, and
like,
especially with the whiskey coming out. And we
yeah.
had I had Woodford Reserve back in my room, so we did a little bit of that. So
Did
Dr.
SJ
Jim.
did SJ roll out or was it just Sarah Lowe?
No, I think SJ's touring.
I think I know she's working a lot. I don't know if she's touring.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, but she wasn't there. But yeah, a handful went back to the room, and let me tell you, I had a couple magicians from the master class there, and there were a few opportunities that this happened throughout the week where a group of us are in a room with a handful of lay people, and it's like, show me something, and then it just becomes like
the
a
magician show
conveyor
fest.
belt
Right.
of magician doing something for somebody, and then they stand up, and the next one sits down, and let me show you this, and boom, 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 and just oh man,
Now you had some heavy hitters in the group, right? You had Harrison and RJ. You
yeah.
know, they're pretty heavy hitters when it comes to the magic. Did they like? Were there any like tip giving or talking about the craft or any
It's
kind of
sweet. No, we were just kind of chilling and hanging out. I mean, I did talk to Harrison about eventually coming to Elkton Magic. So for anybody who's
nice?
listening to this, who's interested in seeing Harrison performing in Elkton, please continue to help me raise the profile and spread the word about Elkton Magic, because I will not do it unless I've got this thing built to the point where I know it will sell out, because I would be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed anytime I bring somebody out and the room's not sold out.
Right.
So, especially for somebody like Harrison, who, like RJ, will have a handful of weeks that are dark every year. So you're using limited time to get those people. We had a good crowd at RJ's show. I think I mentioned that last time,
You
but
did indeed. You talked about it last time,
it
absolutely.
wasn't what I wanted it to be. He enjoyed it. It was an enjoyable. It was a great show, but come on, people, let's fill the room.
Right. Well, it's
And
growing. It's growing, and things are going to
it
grow,
is,
right? I
and
mean,
there are things that when you're putting something like this together, and I don't want to soapbox this, but I will. When you're putting something like this together that is more to benefit your local community than it is a profit-seeking venture, when you've got entities that to your face will pay you lip service, but not show up at the shows, you don't see them doing anything to publicly help promote them other than tell you that they love what you're doing, it's a real slap in the face.
welcome to the world of event booking, sir.
Exactly. So yeah, that's it's cool. If I were trying to make money, it would certainly be profitable.
Right.
It is making money, but again, like the June show, we're giving all that back to a nonprofit, which is great. But I want that check to be a big check. I don't
Right.
want to do this show and be like, okay, here we did this whole thing, and here's $1,500. Like
I
that's
see. There's
embarrassing.
I've noticed there's some local news catching it and local media. Any national media grabbing a hold of the the product, as it will. In
Um,
any
as
not.
far as Elkton Magic is concerned, no, not
Yes, sir.
really.
All right,
No.
so that's the next step in promotion, right? Is you got to get somebody on the national stage to talk about it, right? To really blow it up. That definitely helps. If I mean, we can talk about it, but
Yeah.
of
Well, I mean,
all listeners.
Matt had Penn do a couple of promo videos for us. They didn't seem to take off as much as I would have hoped they would have, but it's a little of this, a little of that. Audience building is a process. Um,
You gotta send you gotta find your local newspapers, like the big newspaper sister
that's the
um,
problem. In a
department
small
in
town,
Elkton.
those don't really exist. So
Right. Well, I mean, which you got to go out, right? You got to find the where the next biggest. Because if you're in Maryland, you're right. How close is Baltimore?
hour-ish.
Right. So you got to invite somebody from Baltimore
Yeah,
out to, like, their entertainment writer. You have to invite them. You're gonna have to send them like a bunch of invitations,
yeah.
and you're gonna have to send them video clips of the other shows, and
Which we have now, and I've got people working on, because we've gotten video of every single one of the shows,
right.
and we're working on boiling that down into a couple of sizzle reels, just like
Do you have an editor?
um,
You got people doing that for you?
yeah, I've got some people working on it because it's certainly not my wheelhouse at
Right,
all.
right.
I've got a
If you
good
need some names,
one.
I might have some names to give you. But if you got some people, that's great.
I may be interested in talking to some of those people because I'm not opposed to hitting this from multiple different angles. Like I've got one that's about to drop that started a long time ago. It was part of this project that the town is doing, which is part of my frustration. Like I'm going to drop $8,000 to be part of this shit for the town, and you can't show up at one of my shows.
Right.
Um, so there is a promo reel that's coming out for Elkton Magic generally. Now that only has video from Matt and my performance back in February because the company that we hired to do it was doing a whole thing. They did the whole video shoot. They did one for
Right.
the law office, all of that. So that's been a pain in the ass process. What I want is somebody that's quick. Like I want somebody that I can be like, let me share all this video with you. And then like 2 weeks goes by and they're like, here are some ideas. And then we kind of go from there and get something done in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. I'm currently working on a project for one of my poems with an editor to do a video release of the poet, a video for this poem, what have you. I caught their work. I'm a big nerd, and I watch
Yeah.
a show on YouTube, a channel called New Rock Stars. And I'm watching these videos. The editing is amazing, and I'm like, this is really good. It's funny editing. It's a storytelling editor, and so I reached out and eventually, and got them to work on the project with me. So we'll see how that turns out and what their workload is, and I'll put you in contact with them.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Building a working relationship, and they do really good work from what I've seen so far. But again, they're also working. They're working, so so
Yeah.
the hard part, of course,
That's
is
what
time.
matters. Yeah, and
Yeah,
there's a promo reel that's in the works for Matt and my tour. Same company's doing that because they have all that video.
right.
I've got people working on one for RJ and mine, and then RJ's also got people because when somebody comes and performs at Elkton Magic, we've got a 3 camera 4K setup that records everything. So you get 3 different angles. One of them
Nice.
is an audience view, and one of them is a straight on view. And then we just kind of, depending on who the performer, if they have a preference, or we just set it up. So all that raw video gets shared. So he's been doing that. If you're an Abracababble listener and subscriber, then you just saw RJ, a video drop there of RJ doing Professor's Nightmare. That was at Elkton Magic. So that was cool. And that just kind of shows you the quality of the video that we're able to put together for people, but I am not the cutty pasty guy that can make that
Right.
into something. Um,
Yeah.
I,
Same.
I
Same.
can run through, and when a bit that I want to isolate starts, I can split the clip, and then I can run it to the end, and I can split the clip, and I can delete the stuff on the outside and just put together a single video so that I can submit it somewhere to be considered either to be booked or to go on TV. But yeah, other than that, I don't make it pretty. If you haven't seen my TikTok, don't bother. Because I don't know what I'm doing. So hey, we've run longer than we wanted to get into some of this
Well,
stuff.
let's get into it. Let's hop right into it.
We got a quick question that came to us from Twitter a little while ago from a guy named Pigskin Pete.
Hello, Pigskin.
He, yeah, he noted that he's looking at cruises and wants to know what the best cruise line is for Caribbean cruises. Um, and one of the things in the back and forth conversation here, and I shared with him episode 21 when we had Billy Hirsch on from Cruise Habit. But one of the things that he noted, because I kind of asked for some specifics, was he's looking for a laid back cruise. I guess he and whoever he's going with are not much drinkers. Thoughts? I have some thoughts. What are your thoughts on cruise lines for Caribbean cruises?
So I've only done one cruise line. Also, first and foremost, thank you very much for the question. Appreciate it. I hope you're listening to this episode when we drop this, and we appreciate the outreach. Thank you very much. Um, so I've only done one cruise through the Caribbean, and that was Virgin Voyages. And then we only went to Dominican Republic and Bimini in the Bahamas. Um, Now, I love Virgin Voyages. Right, I'm now become I'm a big proponent of Virgin Voyages cruise lines. They really they cater to my type of cruising. Um, and even the things that little things I would change about them they're minor enough that I'm not worried about uh the big thing with Virgin Voyages, why I like them so much, and one, they're adults only. That's probably the biggest selling point for me because I have done other cruises in other locations where there are children aboard and there's kids aboard, and it's a different vibe, when there isn't as much freedom to be as rambunctious as you like because there may be kids in the audience, right? So, um, I do like a little bit of more of adult entertainment, and so Virgin Voyages was full of that. I also like the fact that Virgin Voyages, their entertainment staff, are way more interactive with the sailors than any of the other cruise ships I've been on. They, you will get to know them. Like I taught like 4 or 5 of them how to play mahjong on the cruise, right? You're never teaching anybody on any other cruise line how to do something. They're not
Right.
going to be just hanging out with you doing that, whatever. You know, um, they'll come up and we'll talk and have everything. Like, oh, I was gonna hopefully interview some of them for the podcast, but when I'm trying to set it up, because they're working, that's when we found out where the line is.
Right. Right.
Like we can hang out, but we probably shouldn't like be on a social media on a social platform talking about Virgin Voyage. They would just rather us not do that, without it being sanctioned. I'm like, cool, I get it, fair enough. No worries, no hard feelings, like what have you. Um, so I really liked Virgin Voyages. Now, as far as the Bahamas go, like the aspect of going to the Bahamas, like I really only been, like I said, to Dominican Republic and Bimini beach club, and Virgin Voyages has their own beach club, so it's still like biased, right? Because my experience
And all of
in
them do
in the
have
Bahamas, right,
something like
have something
similar.
like that, right? And so my only experience has been that they're a beach club on Bimini, which I've been to twice now, and I love it. It's great. Um, but really, I mean, well, before I get into that aspect, what about you?
I look at it from a different perspective. You got to keep in mind that for the most part, with most of these cruises, the time that you're at port, the time that you are on the island or wherever it is that you're going to port, is somewhat limited. You're going to get there in the morning. Even if you're right there ready to go, you're still coming back on in the early afternoon or early evening, late afternoon. So there's only really a limited amount of time that you are at any of these destinations. So I would begin by saying, hey, where are some places that I'd really like to see, or some destinations within the Caribbean that are kind of on a bucket list for me? Then seek out the cruises, regardless of the line, that are going and servicing those ports, because that way you get somewhere that you want to go, and it may not be necessarily even a specific location that you're seeking, but a specific activity. Like when we went, and this was a Carnival cruise back in December, when we went on one, and one of our ports was Grand Turk. I knew enough about the Turks and Caicos to know that it's surrounded by a reef, and that we would be able to self guide a snorkeling tour, no problem. And I was right about that. So if that's the kind of thing that you're interested in, and it might not be, but really drill down and find out what it is that you're looking for, where that activity is, and then find the cruise lines that are offering it.
It
Keep in
does take a
mind,
little
like,
bit of research on your part if you're specifically looking to go to the Bahamas and you have an idea of what you want to do in the Bahamas. If you have it really helps if you have an idea of where you want to go, particularly. So it does take a little bit of research on your part, depending upon what your aspect is, right? So like when we cruised, we were looking at who's having a transatlantic, how can we get from the US to Europe on a cruise line? And it just so happened that our favorite cruise line had a transatlantic at the time that worked for us, and so that really worked out to our favor. But honestly, if any of the other cruise lines, like if Norwegian or any other ones had a transatlantic, that was in our price range, we may have just as easily jumped on that and been on that boat. But it worked out for us that the one we like also had what we needed.
and
Right.
almost every cruise line, in fact, it's probably safe to say that every major cruise line has an island that they own, that they maintain, and that is going to be on the itinerary for most of their cruises, whether it be what was the
Bimini.
Virgin one?
Bimini.
Bimini. You've got Perfect Day at Coco Cay, which I think is Royal Caribbean.
Right.
Um,
I know Disney
Princess
has
Cay,
one.
Disney's got one. Everybody's got one. So keep in mind that you're going to go to some fake place. Uh,
There's some beautiful paradise that
yeah,
has
it's
been
going to be
built
amazing.
specifically for those sailors. Absolutely.
Yes. So the other things that I like to look at in a cruise are what other amenities are there. Like you mentioned the entertainment. I want to see a magician. And, so I'm not necessarily on the smaller Carnival cruises getting what I want out of it because they don't really do big stage shows. They don't have, those types of magicians there. You get the guys that are doing the strolling, and occasionally they might do a stage show, which the last one went on had one. So
Right.
that would be kind of where I would angle that and start there. But a really great question. Hopefully, you've already
Yeah.
listened to episode 21 that has some info about Cruise Habit and Billy Hirsch.
Yep.
That
Check out
website's a
them.
great resource. It's got a lot of information
Cruisehabit.com.
there.
Reach out to them. Let them know you heard their information from Big Sexy Digital Nomad. I don't know if it'll get you anything extra, but they'll definitely like you more.
Yeah, of course. Um,
And I believe we should have one more. I saw a digital
Digital
postcard.
postcard.
Let's go ahead and read that one. We got time.
Yeah. Does this? Hold on. I think I have some music that we.
All right. Digital
Uh,
postcard.
yeah, there we go. I don't know if that's officially the music for that or
It's
not.
not. It's not. We'll come up with something new. We'll
It'll
reach out.
do.
Yeah, we'll do for
Um,
now.
Okay, this one comes from a friend named a world traveler named Lewis. Okay, Big Sexy. I hope this finds you and the wife well. Do you know if this is somebody you met on a cruise? Is that
No,
is
no.
that
This is
no?
actually a friend of mine from back in my Cal State University San Bernardino days.
Oh, okay. Kicking it old school here. Listen to your podcast. It answered a lot of my questions. Mahjong sounds fun, and you were a line dance instructor on a cruise, which sounds like fun. You were always and still are an excellent teacher.
Oh, thank you
You
very much for that.
mentioned a church, and I heard the architecture and art in Barcelona is amazing. Is that true? Do you speak Spanish? How are the locals? This is like a 3 episode question here. You mentioned your wife started work. Does she work remotely? And what are you doing for work? Is the
All
Big
right.
Sexy a full time business? I think that's probably is Digital Nomad a full time business? Not yet, but spread the word. It could be.
Right, right.
Um,
Keep help us grow this, and it absolutely could be.
Uh, okay, I'll stop with the questions. Smiley face emoji. Glad you made it safely. Best, Lewis.
Awesome.
I'm going to let you take the wheel on this one. These are all questions for you.
All right, so let me pull that up. Okay, first question: how are you? I'm good. Things are good. We're doing all right. We're loving Malaga and having a great time. Again, thank you for the compliments. I appreciate being called a teacher. Yes, the architecture and art in Barcelona is absolutely amazing. We saw the Segura Familia, which is this really massive church out there. Cathedral is the proper word for that. It just hits different. Like we were told by some of the people who've been there before, like when you see it, it hits different. And we've seen several cathedrals and churches, in different places. And then when you come across that, when you're like, holy shit, that is a cathedral. Like the reliefs and the facades are just absolutely amazing and phenomenal. I'll try to post some pictures up when this episode drops. Um, do you speak Spanish? So the good news is I grew up in Southern California, so I un poquito español, because uh, when you're in California, especially in Southern California, uh, there's enough Spanish speaking people that you pick up a little bit of it. How are the locals? Man, everybody here has been lovely and friendly and wonderful. We had one instance, but I think that was in Portugal. Um, it was in Lisbon, uh, where there was a little bit of anti-American feeling, but that was in Lisbon. You're talking about Spain. You mentioned your wife started work. Does she work remotely? Yes, my wife is an amazing and fabulous marriage and family therapist. Her business is Courage to Blossom Counseling. She is phenomenal. And yes, she works remotely. Um, that's why we're able to do this because wife works remotely and I um, don't, which is your next question. What are you doing for work? This is what I'm trying to do for work. This and um, uh, working on my musical, working on the Reservate This, the call center musical. That's what I'm working on now. And is the Big Sexy a full time business? Well, I do have a full time business called Who is Big Sexy Entertainment. That's where I funnel through any of the work I may do, the voice work, voice acting work, and things of that nature. Um, any of that I do um, runs through that business, and so that is an official business. Any sponsors who want to sponsor Who's Big Sexy Entertainment, please feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to assist. And Lewis, man, great to hear from you, guy. Thank you very much for reaching out. Appreciate it. It's been a long time. He's a good friend of mine from way back in the day. We used to go over Lewis's house after theater stuff, and he used to work at Market Broiler, which is a seafood restaurant in Southern California, and we would grub down on some of the most delicious seafood. And we played card games. We used to game at D&D and just nerd out together. So I appreciate you reaching out, brother, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you very much for that digital postcard.
Which is awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, that if you want to help make this a real thing more than it is now, something that can be relied upon for income, tell a friend. That's probably the number one best way to do it. Get some merch. Then you can get some cool swag. We've got a whole bunch of amazing designs that have just recently released on wearisbigsexy.com. That's WEAR. How do you know that that's going to take you to the clothing? Because it says wear, like you wear clothing. Um,
Yeah, where is Big Sexy?
I have a few
Love
that
it.
just showed up. I think I post pictures of those on social media.
I don't know. You may have. Yes.
I
Well,
should.
I don't know if you did. I definitely did.
Yeah,
I
they
definitely
look
shared some
great.
images.
But it's not. Here's the thing: when we've got this stuff set up through T Public, we don't make a ton of money off of it. Big Sexy doesn't make a ton of money off of it,
No.
but it's something. And it when you're wearing those shirts, why walk around trying to start a conversation with somebody to introduce them to the podcast when you can just wear that shirt and one of them is really cool. It makes you kind of depicted the way that Carmen Sandiego
I
was
love it.
depicted.
That might be
That's
one of my favorites.
that's my favorite right
Yeah,
now. It's
Mia's
not the only
Carmen
one.
Sandiego. Like, where is Big Sexy? Where in the world is Big Sexy? Like that
It's a
makes me happy.
conversation starter,
It's
and then
definitely a
somebody's
conversation
asking
starter.
you to tell them about this podcast, and that I think is the best way to do it because then it's their idea.
Yeah, so
They were
word of mouth is huge. And just sharing the love and sharing the information and getting out there. And you know what also helps is writing in. Hit us up at bigsexynomad@gmail.com, or leave us an audio uh, uh, postcard at prankcall.me. Because what you do help is also you give us content, right? So that
yeah.
makes it interesting. And then you get the joy of hearing your words and your information, and we get to respond to your words and information, which then you can go out to your friends like, hey, I wrote this letter in on this podcast to answer these questions. How about we listen to and talk about, oh, this me, that's my name. And I would love to get to a point when we're like, oh yeah, and we're giving like post show shout outs to people who help keep the podcast going, and we're looking forward to being able to do that. So giving shout outs to the creators who have helped us so far, both with merch and music. We definitely appreciate that so much. The artwork as well. A big shout out to them now, and to folks who have written in, and to the folks that we have spoken to along the way, people we've interviewed so far. We have some interview that you haven't heard that you're going to be hearing soon. I think we'll probably drop one for the next episode. May start that out. I've been teasing it for a while, but we want to
They're
get
coming.
those into the zeitgeist
We
very
are
soon here.
admittedly still tweaking our own schedules with being on different continents, but we're making it happen.
We're
It's
definitely
coming.
making it happen. So, well,
Step.
we might start them. I mean, because it's so close to, we're getting close to June. We have one more episode before June hits, so we may drop something. Well, I realized, you know what? Before our next episode drops, it will be my wedding anniversary. Will have come and gone. So a big shout out to my lovely wife who's sitting over there. Hey, baby. I was just saying happy early anniversary as I record the podcast, because this will drop in 2 days, so that'll be 4 days before anniversary. But I want to wish you a happy anniversary. I love you. All right. And yeah, a little bit of sweetness on the end of the podcast, like we do. We always give a little nugget of extra something. So if you listen to the podcast, be sure to listen all the way to the end, because there's always
That's
something
right.
that we think of last minute that we button these with.
Yeah, and I'm going to tease this out there, but let us know what you think about us breaking this down into seasons. We're nowhere near. We're not going 1,000 episodes in season one, but
No.
maybe somewhere around that 80 episode benchmark. Our promise to have our shit together by episode 80. If we do it, maybe we do it around that as the cusp.
Yeah.
So maybe episode 80 is the finale of season one. Maybe it is episode one of season two. But we're only doing that on your opinion because we haven't really. I don't know what that means. Like, I know what it means, but it
Right.
doesn't mean anything. So maybe we'll do it. Maybe we won't. We'll be more than a year old before episode 80 because, with very few exceptions, we're only dropping one episode a week. There
Right.
was around the holidays, I think we dropped a bonus episode just
There may be
because.
bonus episodes here and there, but pretty much
Yeah,
once a week is what we're
we,
doing.
we may scatter in a few of these interviews at opportune times, but for the most part, we're sticking once a week, commanding your Wednesdays or whenever you end up listening to it.
Very much so.
But yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Big
And
Sexy Nomad at gmail.com
never
for
hits
all
up.
those questions. Oh, the other thing. I have music that's sitting here waiting to play to intro us into wrong answers only. So either send us some questions that only come to me and put it all in caps in the subject line so Big Sexy doesn't watch them, or in the alternative, send us an email telling us that you think that's a terrible idea and we should kill it.
Yeah.
Because again, we're only going to do shit that you guys like and for your
Right.
input. So if you love it, please submit some stuff. If you hate it, please tell us
Yeah.
because
And there should be trivia questions. If you're not sure what kind of questions to ask, make them trivia questions. Even
yeah,
if you want
trivia.
to grab a Trivia Pursuit game, and find your favorite questions in the game, and then submit those questions to us. We appreciate those.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's what I got. Anything else from you?
That's it, man. I'm just enjoying life here in Spain, and I appreciate it. Be on the lookout on the social medias. Be sure to check out Big Sexy Nomad, or at Big Sexy Nomad on Instagram and Twitter. We're dropping stuff there. I pretty much run the Instagram stuff, and Judgment so that's pretty much runs the Twitter stuff. That's pretty much how things have been going. I'm terrible on Twitter. I don't tweet very
And I see
much.
all these messages popping in on the Instagram, and I'm like, that is Big Sexy. Go for it.
That's me all day long. Yeah, I
Because
got
it's tough when you got two people on one social media account because you don't want to poke in and look because then it's going to be unread and then you might miss something. And so I just kind of keep myself at a distance there
right.
and just let it
Same.
happen. And it works because I know if there's something important there, you'll let me know.
Right.
And then we'll go from there. So
Same.
yeah.
All right. Safe
Safe
travels.
travels.